Man will never be a permanent inhabitant of the barrier islands. Mother Nature won't allow it. I'm Captain Rick Kellam, and I'm a sixth-generation barrier island descendant. I'm the first generation of my family in 6 generations not to be born on that island. My love of those barrier islands is as strong as the day is and the tide is. My grandmother, I grew up, she was telling me stories about the barrier islands when her and my mom and my aunt and my grandfather were all out there living in the village of Broadwater on Hog Island. And we'd go to bed at night and wake up, and she'd still be telling me stories even though I'd been asleep for 2 or 3 hours. Cedar Island again had a very lush lodge on there, not as fancy by any means as it was on the Clubhouse Marsh in the Accomack Club. They called it Clubhouse Marsh. It was a facility out there that was called the Island House, and it boasted of having a bowling alley. Hunting was a big thing out there. Clapper rails, king rails, all types of shorebirds, from whimbrels, which were called long-billed curlews or curlews back then, to even ruddy turnstones. They were all hunted. And then in the summer months, you would fish. The 33 storm pretty well did it all in. The 33 storm was devastating around here. The water came all up on the streets here in Wachapreague. My grandmother said on Hog Island that the ocean met the bay. And the only way they could save their houses was to open the windows and open the doors and allow the water just to flow through the houses. There were somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 homes on that island at one time when the big boom hit. And it was known as Ocean City, Virginia. Cedar Island's lost about a mile, almost a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile from the inlet down to where it was today that I carried you to. It's just accelerating at such a rapid leap and bounds. That vessel was at a point where you could walk all the way around it. People walked up and got up on top of it. Some things were salvaged off of it. And then all of a sudden, we had another big storm 6-7 years later. And now, as you can see, it's setting out in the Atlantic Ocean about 150 yards, 200 yards from land. So that again gives you that indicator that the boat really never moved, because the boat is just a skeleton. The beach moved from the boat. I remember when you could almost throw a baseball from one side of the island, from Paramore Island over to Cedar Island. Paramore Island is the largest barrier of the 23 barrier islands that lie entirely in Virginia. Assateague Island is bigger, but the majority of Assateague lies in Maryland waters. Paramore Island has never had a full-time development onto it ever. Back years ago, there would be what are known as oyster watch houses, when people would watch their oyster grounds. There were at least 2 or 3 gun clubs out there, hunting lodges out there that catered to the rich and famous again. One was known as the PI Club, or Paramore Island Club. They enlisted local carvers from the local community to carve their decoys for them, their shorebird decoys and their duck decoys, some of which today are bringing in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for those decoys that were carved by humble men. That is just a marsh, a marshy area which is like all up and down the east coast of the United States, spartina grass. And what makes that so significant is that it really shows in real time, in visual effect, what has happened to our barrier islands. It shows where the marshes have been uplifted, washed away, and on a high tide deposited up on top of itself. It shows where the shell outcroppings has undermined everything and piled it up in some places out there that are 3 to 4 foot deep. In all my years that I've been out on those islands, which I'm going to guess somewhere around 60 years, I guess, at least, I have never seen the acceleration of these islands going away the way they are now. When you get out there and you see what's going on those islands, and you watch it firsthand, and you see an inlet that was a half a mile across now is well over a mile across, it makes you sit up and take notice that, you know, these scientists know what they're talking about. The eastern shore of Virginia Barrier Islands are by far the greatest work that Mother Nature has ever done.